This is Julie D., and you're listening to the Nordonia We Need to Talk podcast network, brought to you by NordoniaHills.news, recorded in the Gary Miller studio. Cleveland Sports Podcast starts now.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Cleveland Sports Show. We have a ton to discuss today. First, we have to get into the conclusion of the Nordonia Knights football season, which concluded a few weeks ago, November 2nd, on the Friday. Their first playoff game, unfortunately, ended in a loss to the Riverside Beavers by a score of 43-38. The Knights were outscored in both quarters of the second half. In the third quarter, they were outscored by 4, and then by 1 in the fourth quarter. And we're actually up 21-7 at halftime. However, like I said, the Painesville Riverside Beavers were able to mount the comeback and defeat the Nordonia Knights by 5 points. So this loss therefore concludes the season for the Nordonia Knights football. They will be back next fall, but certainly a huge improvement over last year, where they were only 2-8. Now they were 9-1 this regular season, and that one loss was to the undefeated Rotherham Grizzlies. So much improvement over this year, and hopefully much more improvement to come for more progression from Nordonia Knights football. So definitely a wonderful step in the right direction for the Nordonia Knights. And we're going to move on to professional sports now. And when I talk about professional sports, I'm going to talk about some soccer here. First, we're going to get into the English Premier League all the way out in England. The top 3 teams, we have Liverpool at the first seed with 30 points. We have Manchester City with 29 points in second place. And then third is Chelsea with 28 points. Fourth, Tottenham Hotspur with 27 points. And all 4 of those teams have a point differential of 1 point. So, for example, the point differential between the first and second seed is 1 point. And then Chelsea and Tottenham Hotspur only have a point differential of 1 point as well. So we'll definitely be keep an eye on the Premier League standings. Games going on almost every day. It's a lot of fun to watch, especially with all of these top-notch clubs going at it every weekend for us to see. Extremely excited for that. Make sure to keep an eye on Premier League. But we have the much more important soccer topic to talk about as of now, and it's the MLS Cup playoffs. The knockout round concluded with Sporting Kansas City and Real Salt Lake facing in one of the 2 Western Conference matchups. The other Western Conference matchup is the Seattle Sounders and the Portland Timbers. And in the Eastern Conference, the New York Red Bulls are taking on our hometown team, the Columbus Crew. And Atlanta United and New York City are facing off the 2 and 3 seed battle. So as of now, it is in the conference championships, the Portland Timbers are the only team to have advanced to this specific round. They defeated the Seattle Sounders on penalty kicks 4-2. And in the other Western Conference matchup between Sporting Kansas City and Real Salt Lake, the leg 2 of this match will be today at 3 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. The last leg was a draw 1-1. So whoever wins this game essentially moves on to the next round to face the Portland Timbers, and the leg 1 of that game will be November 25th on a Sunday. Going back to the Eastern Conference with the Columbus Crew, the Crew lead the first leg by winning that game 1-0, and leg 2 will be today at 7:30. So if the Columbus Crew are able to win this game, they will move on to the Eastern Finals of the MLS. And they will take on either Atlanta United or New York City. And Atlanta United lead the first leg 1-0. And will face New York City today at 5:30. So definitely so much going on in MLS soccer. Stay tuned for that. Like I said, the final will be on December 8th, we have all of these one of the top teams, as we in the previous podcast, these were the top teams that I was always listing off every week. So stay tuned for what's going on over there in the MLS. Some great soccer going on, and now is the time that we get into the NBA talk, and so much NBA news has aroused in these last few days, especially with the trades of Jimmy Butler and the continuous turmoil from the Cavaliers. And that's what I'm actually going to get into now, just how horrible the Cavaliers have continued to be throughout this week. I don't know if you remember that. Remember that one podcast where Brady and I were just taking the Cavs apart and just dissecting how just horrendous and humiliating they've been through the season. Guess how many games they've won from that point to now? They've won a mediocre 1 game. So that gives them only 1 win on the season with 11 losses. And they'll now, this week, they will be taking on the Hornets at home, and then we'll head to Washington, D.C. to face the Wizards on the second night of a back-to-back. And after that game, they will face the Detroit Pistons the following Monday. And then probably the biggest game of the season for the Cavaliers, when LeBron returns home on November 21st. I'm actually going to that game. That's going to be a lot of fun. I will tell you all about it when LeBron James and the Showtime Lakers come in to Cleveland to take on his hometown team, the Cavaliers. Very, very excited and anticipating a great matchup. But we're not going to get into that right now because that's not for a couple of weeks, and I have just so much more to talk about the Cavs and just the putrid effort they've been giving so far. Now, I have recovered from that 1 week where I was just diminishing everything about the Cavs, and I actually was able to. I found 2 players again who stood out again, especially this past week. And the first one is Tristan Thompson, who didn't have a great showing on Wednesday against the Thunder with only 10 points. But on November 5th in Orlando against the Magic, and then last night against the Bulls, he put up 19 points in Orlando with 1 block, 4 assists, and 16 rebounds. And he shot 9 for 12 from the field, all in 34 minutes. And then he played 34 minutes again last night. And he put up 22 points with 12 rebounds, 1 assist, 2 steals, and he shot 10 for 14 from the field. So the great news about this is that Tristan Thompson's taking his shots and is able to hit them because he's based on the fact that he's hit 9 of 12 and 10 for 14 in those 2 specific games I mentioned. It shows you that he doesn't need a lot of room for error to get his shot going. And that's why he's always been considered such a beast on the board. But he's going to have to consistently prove that. And I talk about how one of the huge issues for this Cavalier team is consistency. They don't have consistent scoring, which is why they're 1-11. They don't have consistent offense that teams like the Thunder, the Warriors, they don't have consistent offense that they can run time and time again. Now, I just discussed Tristan Thompson. I'm going to talk about Colin Sexton. I think he is the other player that really stood out, especially the last 2 games where the Cavs faced the Thunder at home, and then they played the Bulls in Chicago. Colin Sexton played a very surprising long 42 minutes in the game against the Thunder and scored 15 points. He shot 50% from the field. 50% from 3-point range. He had 2 rebounds, 1 assist, 0 steals, but then he had 1 block to make up for getting those steals. And then last night he was on fire in Chicago, the Windy City, where he put up 34 minutes. He put up 20 points. Again, shot 50% from the field. He shot 2 for 3 from 3-point range. He had 4 rebounds and 3 assists. And similar to Tristan Thompson, the big thing I take away from this is the little room for error that Colin Sexton needs with his three-point shot. Yes, you could say, oh, he only put up 2 3-point attempts or only 3 3-point attempts, but he made one of those 2 attempts, and then he made 2 of those 3 attempts. So, yes, although he hasn't been shooting the 3 a lot, when he needs to shoot the 3, he's been effective. And that's really what matters, especially during the course of an 82 season. You need guards who can make their perimeter shots. However, similar to Tristan Thompson, the problem is consistency. The Cavaliers need Colin Sexton to be consistent and to be able to put up points, night after night. And you can't have one 5-point night and then just all of a sudden explode for a 20-point night. It has to be consistent. I cannot express that enough with this Cavalier team. As I said before, the upcoming schedule for the Cavs is a back-to-back this week, where Tuesday they'll be facing the Charlotte Hornets at home, and then that following Wednesday we'll head to Washington, D.C. to face the Wizards, who are also mightily struggling as well, with the second worst record in the NBA. So that matchup will for sure be a battle for pride between the two teams. Now let's move to the other side of the country. Let's talk about LeBron and how the Lakers have been looking. They've won 4 of their last 5 games. They are 6-6 at 500 basketball. A lot of those worries that we had about them are slowly fading away now, given the fact that they're 6-6. They look much calmer now playing on the court with one another, and their 15-point victory last night against the Sacramento Kings was really a statement win, given the fact that they dominated most of the game. And yes, you could say it's against the Kings, but it's still dominant win. And they also were able to defeat the Timberwolves by 4 points this past Wednesday. So yeah, I'm looking forward to what the Lakers are going to have to bring. Their next few games, they have a 2-game homestand against Atlanta and Portland. I think for sure that Atlanta will be an easy win, given the fact that Atlanta doesn't have the talent and the quality of players that Los Angeles has. And then the Trailblazers and Lakers, that's going to be a much more competitive game, given the fact that in the last 2 games between the Lakers and the Trailblazers this season, the Trailblazers have really given the Lakers a run for their money and actually defeated the Lakers in their opening game on opening night back in October. So I'm definitely looking forward to see what Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum will bring to the table against LeBron and the Lakers. So for sure, I definitely see progress within the Lakers so far. We'll see how their next few games pan out. From what I've seen in their schedule, there's really nothing that looks too terribly difficult for them. It's not like they're playing the Warriors or anyone yet. But I'm definitely seeing much more positive signs in the Lakers than I did, say, 3 weeks ago. And LeBron James himself has been having another spectacular season. He's averaged about 35 minutes. He's averaged 26 points. He's been shooting 50% from the field. His 3-point progress has decreased a little bit, however. It's not been as great. He's only been shooting 31% from 3-point range. However, he has been averaging 8 rebounds and 8 assists, along with 2 steals per game. So that makes up for his incredibly low 3-point percentage, honestly. 31%. That's what I question about LeBron James and what he brings to the table for this Laker team, because we already know that they don't have a lot of shooting prowess. And given that LeBron, their best player, is only shooting 31%, I'm not asking him to be the best shooter on the team or anything, but if the Lakers want to have a chance to be able to compete, especially later on in the Western Conference, then they're going to need to be able to have more consistency from the perimeter. And I think LeBron James really needs to be one of the key factors in establishing that. And now, moving on from the Lakers, we have a huge trade that occurred yesterday afternoon between the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Philadelphia 76ers. The Minnesota Timberwolves traded Jimmy Butler for Robert Covington, Dario Saric, and a 2022 draft pick. Now we could always think about who won this trade, who lost this trade. I'll be 100% honest with you. As much as I think Philly won this trade, you could also look back to Minnesota and see, now that they have Robert Covington, now that they have Dario Saric, along with Andrew Wiggins, Karl Anthony Towns, and Derrick Rose, who's, least to say, has had a great season so far, especially with that 50-point game he had a couple of weeks ago. The Timberwolves still, I think, can cause some damage and make some noise in the Western Conference. And their chemistry issues will not be as severe as they were when Butler was there, because we all know the drama that was occurring almost every day with him and the Timberwolves. So that's going to be one positive that Minnesota will have. They won't be suffering with those chemistry issues anymore. And the Philadelphia 76ers now have one more elite guard at their side. They already have Ben Simmons. They already have J.J. Redick. Now with Jimmy Butler, along with Joel Embiid, I think this team really has a chance to compete with both the Celtics and the Raptors in the East. I'm not gonna, because I'm not going to give them a ton of credit as of now. I have to see how they play first, because we never know how this could work. Look at the Houston Rockets this year. We're gonna get to them in a bit here too, but on paper they really look like a team who can compete with almost anyone in the league. One problem I do see happening though for the 76ers is the roster spot, because Ben Simmons is associated with the point guard position. Then we have J.J. Redick is the starting shooting guard. So I'm wondering, is J.J. Redick going to have to come off the bench? Because I don't think Jimmy Butler himself is going to be coming off the bench. That really would not make much sense. So what's most likely going to happen is J.J. Redick's going to have to come off the bench, or Butler will have to play some kind of forward position, given the fact that the Sixers did lose a quality player in Robert Covington and another bench player in Dario Saric at their disposal. So yeah, for sure, I definitely think that the Sixers, really especially after the unproductive offseason that they had, really not improving very much. In fact, maybe getting a little bit worse. This really rejuvenates probably the Sixers' spirit, and especially the fact that they were not playing up to par with the standards that many people had for them for this upcoming season. Now, given the fact that they have Jimmy Butler, who's averaged 36 minutes, 21 points, he's shooting 47% from the field and 38% from three-point range. This is someone who also averages 4 assists and 5 rebounds. I think this definitely is going to be a huge boost for Philadelphia, given the fact that they have stars in Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons as well. Now, speaking of the Eastern Conference, we're going to get to the Boston Celtics, and as disappointed as I am with the Cavaliers and just how humiliating and embarrassing they've been so far this season, I really am I'm very concerned with how the Boston Celtics have been playing as of late. They played the Phoenix Suns this past Thursday, and were just getting destroyed. They were outscored 13-32 in the first quarter, and actually had to come back. And miraculously, they came back from 22 points and won the game in overtime by 7 points. Now, yes, a win is a win, you could say, but this is the Phoenix Suns, who are currently 2-9. These are the Phoenix Suns are one of the worst teams in basketball. And a team with the caliber of the Boston Celtics have to win those games convincingly. They can't force those games to go into overtime. They can't, rely on Kyrie Irving's 39 points to for him to save the day. This really should have been a game where Kyrie Irving didn't play, and the Celtics should have still won handedly. That's, I think, how bad the Suns are. compared to the Boston Celtics. And the fact that they needed an overtime with a 39-point explosion by Kyrie Irving, it really does concern me, the fact that they had to really compete to win that game. And then they followed that up with a loss to the Utah Jazz. They lost 115 to 123. Again, the Celtics were down 20, and then in the fourth quarter cut the lead to four separate times, and still we're just not able to get it done defensively, which leads them now to a 7-5 record overall. They face the Portland Trail Blazers tonight, and I will be 100% honest with you. The scheme that the Boston Celtics are using, which is go down, especially in these last two games, which has been go down, by a significant amount early, and then claw your way back in the fourth quarter, and then make it a game towards the final minutes of the actual match. That's really not how you play basketball, and I don't understand. We always talk about how the Celtics are, the number one defensive ranked team in the league. No one can stop them when they, no one can stop them on offensively, or defensively. But the fact that on Friday against Utah they cut the lead to four separate times, and you're telling me that each of those 4 times they couldn't get one stop and one score. I mean, this is the team that we expect to get to the finals against most likely the Warriors. And the fact that, they can't get those stops that they crucially need, which eventually led to them losing by 8, it's a huge sign for concern. And, Kyrie Irving obviously is frustrated as well, given the fact that after the Celtics lost to the Nuggets, he threw the ball in the crowd, therefore receiving a $25,000 fine. We're not going to get into that, but anyway, the Celtics really do need to wake up here, especially with this Jimmy Butler trade making the East more competitive than it already is. And then, of course, we always have to add in the Milwaukee Bucks and what they bring to the table with Giannis Antetokounmpo and, the rising stars of Milwaukee. And Gordon Hayward, I'll be very honest with you. Yes, he came off an injury, but I'm still disappointed in how he's been playing. He's only averaged 10 points. I was honestly expecting probably about 15, 20 points, especially, he had a whole off season to get better and recover. And, I'm not going to, rip everything out, but I will be honest, I did expect a little more from Gordon Hayward when this upcoming season came about. Maybe not for the first few games, but now the fact that we're 12 games in and he's still only averaging about 10 points a game, again, that's a little concerning as well to me. And like I said, the Toronto Raptors are the best team in the Eastern Conference right now. They are 12-1. No one is, it seems no one has an answer for them right now, and they really are the beasts of the East. And I think the Celtics really need to understand that and get back to their winning ways if they want to prove to everyone why they are a finals contending team. And from the Eastern Conference, we're going to move back over to the Western Conference with the Houston Rockets, who have been just absolutely appalling to start the season so far. I mean, they are worse than the New Orleans Pelicans right now. It's a very, very frustrating topic to talk about because they have so much star power and they are 4-7. But that just goes to show you that just because you have, a numerous amount of more than 2 All-Stars on your team, that doesn't mean that, you're just going to win every game like the Warriors have. It's because the Warriors have been able to mesh their stars extremely well and, again, play in a system. The Golden State Warriors have a system in which they run every time, which requires both offense and defense. The Houston Rockets, A, have no system, and B, they only rely on offense. They don't rely on defense at all. They are 0-4 at home. They have not won a home game yet. All four of their wins have been on the road. And last year, they only lost 7 games at home. They were 34-7 that year. They went 65-17. They were 34-7 at home. And the fact that they already have 4 losses, it's showing me that they're not going to emulate their phenomenal seasons they had last year. That's for sure. But it shows me that when it comes to home court advantage, that's really not the case with the Houston Rockets here. And, Carmelo Anthony, I thought that he and Chris Paul were able to, given the friendship that they have, I thought the chemistry really was going to work. I really was giving out a lot of hope for the Houston Rockets to, like I said, emulate the season they had last year. But Carmelo Anthony has only, if we look at his stats here, he's only been averaging 13 points. He's shooting 33% from 3-point range and 33% for a Houston Rocket whose overall goal is to shoot the 3-pointer, and that's their main style of offense for the Houston Rockets. He's only shooting 40% from the field. It really, you might be asking, well, how does that really affect the team? It really is bringing the team down. I mean, James Harden is still putting up his numbers. He's averaging about 24 points. That is a little less than his MVP season, but he's still demonstrating his stats once again. And then Chris Paul, who really is the emotional leader of the team, hasn't been playing his best basketball for sure. These last 3 games in Indiana, at Oklahoma City, and at San Antonio, he's only scored 9, 10, and 13 points. And we know that Chris Paul is a very gifted offensive player, and he really showcased his talents last year with the Houston Rockets. So I for sure expect more from him as the season progresses. And I think the Rockets will make the playoffs, but what I am worried about is just what seed they will finish in, because we know how competitive the West is, especially last year, where if you lost a game last year, you could fall down a few spots. And if the Rockets keep this up, they will most likely find themselves in a very, very low playoff seed, maybe not even making the playoffs at all. But given the fact that they have the talent and the heart of both James Harden and Chris Paul, I think that they will be able to make it through. But I don't think that they will have the success and the victorious sensations that they had last year. And actually, Stephen A. Smith of ESPN talked about it a few days ago. He talked about how the Rockets are playing like they essentially have given up. That their loss to the Warriors last year was really their only chance to win a championship, and now that they've lost that series, they're really playing like they're walking with their heads down, with just no confidence, no velour, no sign of really grit or determination, and it really is frustrating to see that, especially the fact that James Harden is the reigning MVP, and Chris Paul is doing everything that he can, but I think Carmelo Anthony really does compromise them defensively. And for the Rockets, their next few games will be today. They will face the Indiana Pacers at home, and then they head off to Denver to take on the Red Hot Nuggets. And then this upcoming Thursday is a huge game for Houston, where the Golden State Warriors will come to town, which will be a Western Conference Final rematch. I'll be honest with you, I think the Warriors, it's going to be an easy win for them, given just how dominant they've been this season, apart from that terrible loss to the Milwaukee Bucks. But in the end, I really don't think that's going to matter to them, given the fact that they have their eyes set on a three-peat. But yeah, back to the Rockets. I don't really see how you can expect to be the best in the West have a record of 4-7 and just not play any defense at all. If you have any comments about anything I've said today or about the Houston Rockets and how they've been doing, just let me know on my Twitter page at Nordonia Sports, Darius Sethna, because I'm really as clueless as you are as to how this stacked Rockets team with Carmelo Anthony, Chris Paul, and James Harden, why they're not living or playing up to par with how they've with what was expected of them. And last but certainly not least, the Cleveland Browns are currently facing the Atlanta Falcons right now in downtown Cleveland. The Browns came off a 14-point loss to the Kansas City Chiefs last Sunday and will hope to regain control of their home field this afternoon against Atlanta. And after this game, the Browns will head back out for a 2-game road trip. First against their Ohio rivals, the Cincinnati Bengals, and then we'll head to Texas to face the Houston Texans. And a very interesting stat I found on both the Browns' opponents for these next 2 weeks. First for the Bengals is that they're second in the AFC North behind the Pittsburgh Steelers, but they also they have not lost at home yet. They are 3-1-0 at home. And then similar for the Houston Texans, they are first in the AFC South, and they've won 6 straight, and they are 3-1-0 at home. So the Browns are really going to have to keep a focused mindset in it, because given the fact that they are in an environment in which neither of the opponents in which they are facing haven't lost on their home field. If the Browns are going to want to be successful, they must have a focused mindset. But I think that they will most likely lose these games, given the fact that they're still a developing team, and the Bengals and the Texans have already established themselves as the top teams in their specific divisions. And a fan named Gino, again, thank you very much for your question, Gino, about Colin Sexton and his progression with the Cavs. I'll be very honest with you. He is a rookie. I'm not expecting him to put up, Steph Curry-like numbers. It's all a process, and the Cavs have clearly shown that this year is a process year for them. They're 1-11, so I don't think they're looking for a championship anytime soon, which really gives time for Colin Sexton to really develop himself as a shooter. And these last 2 games, he's been proving himself a lot with the 15 points and the 20 points that he's had. And like I was talking about his 3-point range, that when he shoots it, when he does shoot it, it does go in. And it goes in when it counts the most. So he was 2 for 3, 1 for 2. So he's for sure not a bust. He's a rookie. He's going to have a lot more improvement. When Steph Curry didn't have the shooting prowess he did now when he was a rookie, we really didn't consider him a bust, because look at him now. He's one of the best players in the NBA. So I think it's all about time for Colin Sexton. What can he do in the offseason? What can he do in this season? Because the Cavaliers don't have a lot of pressure on themselves to do well, given the fact that they lost LeBron. As disappointing as it has been, that is the truth. And I think Colin Sexton, it really is more about progress and not perfection at this point. So again, thank you very much, Gino, for that question. Any other fans have any questions, such as Gino or anyone else, please let me know on Twitter at Nordonia Sports. I am Darius Sethna. And that concludes our show for today. Brady should be back this upcoming weekend, so we're going to hear a lot more from him in the football world, and we'll also debate some other NBA topics, and we'll keep you up to date with all the MLS news and Premier League standings. Thank you guys very much again for your time. This concludes our show, and have an awesome week. Thank you very much, and go Cavs.